So you have been in a calorie deficit and made good fat loss progress. Now it's time to increase your calories to transition out of a fat loss phase, but you are concerned that eating more calories will make you gain some fat back. This is a familiar situation for many individuals, but fortunately, by using a proper reverse diet in which you gradually increase your calorie intake, you are able to enjoy more calories while preventing fat regain. A reverse diet is also known as the post-dieting phase. Once you have reached your fat loss goal, instead of getting back to your old habits, in a reverse diet you gradually increase your calorie intake back to maintenance to avoid fat regain. In today's video, I will explain the science and theory behind the reverse diet so that you can properly transition out of a fat loss phase by eating more calories, feeling higher in energy, and all of this while maintaining your level of leanness. To lay the groundwork of this video, I first want to share my recent reverse dieting experience and how I've been able to increase my calories up back to maintenance after my fat loss phase. After this practical example, we will dive into more of the science and theory of reverse dieting. Let's start from the beginning. In the first week of March, I decided that it would be a good time to start a fat loss phase. This was shortly after a lean bulking period. I started maintaining a daily calorie intake of 2,000 to 2,100 calories per day, which I know from my previous experiences in the fat loss phase puts me in a good calorie deficit. Over the course of 12 weeks, this went well and I was able to lose significant fat. It of course wasn't always easy maintaining 2,000 to 2,100 calories per day when eating out or meeting friends, but I wasn't too hard on myself if one day of the week was say around 2,300 or 2,400 calories per day. One day of higher calories won't make or break your progress, and I suggest you also have this big picture perspective whenever embarking on a fat loss phase. Worth mentioning is that around week 9 of the fat loss phase, I maintained a 1-week diet break because there was just a busy week for me with lots of meetings and social events, and I also started to feel some fatigue kicking in after maintaining a calorie deficit for 2 months. So during this week I was more flexible and maintained around 2,400 to 2,500 calories per day as a diet break. After 12 weeks, I achieved the rough body fat levels I wanted to achieve, and now it was time to start increasing calories back up again. And this is where many people get confused. You have one camp that says you need to very carefully increase calorie intake by 50 or max 100 calories, and there's another camp saying to just simply increase your daily calorie intake to maintenance or even start bulking right after a fat loss phase. I like to stay somewhere in the middle. Before starting the fat loss phase, I was able to maintain my body weight by consuming around 2,700 calories per day, but we know from research that when in a fat loss phase, your metabolism adapts by slowing down. This makes sense. When you've lost fat and you're also at a lighter body weight, it also costs less energy to move your body around. Next to this, we also know from the literature that your spontaneous activity tends to decrease the longer you are in a calorie deficit. So if I were to increase my calories back up to 2,700 per day immediately, I would likely regain some fat because the number of calories you burn right after a fat loss phase is lower than your usual maintenance calories. Therefore, right after the fat loss phase, I estimated my new maintenance calories to be more around 2,400 to 2,600 calories per day, and I used the 3-week reverse dieting period to build up to this calorie number. Week 1 after the fat loss phase, I increased my daily calorie intake by 300. On week 2, the daily calorie intake went up by 100 calories. And on week 3, there was another 100 calorie increase, bringing me to around 2,600 calories daily. Once I start the new lean bulking phase, I expect my maintenance calories to increase further up towards 2,700 to 2,800 calories per day because the metabolism also adapts in the opposite direction, where if you feed the body more, the metabolism also adapts upward. As you can see from my reverse dieting example, when setting up a reverse diet, there are a few key variables that we need to consider. The two main considerations are reverse diet length and by how much you increase your calories on a week-to-week basis. The exact setup of these reverse dieting variables depends on how long you have been in a fat loss phase and your current level of leanness. For instance, if you have been dieting for 8 to 12 weeks, your reverse diet can be shorter than for someone that has been losing fat for over 6 months. The individual that has been dieting for 8 to 12 weeks has experienced less metabolic adaptations than someone who has been in a calorie deficit for 6 months, so the post-dieting recovery period is then also shorter. A general rule of thumb that I like to maintain with most of my clients is to have a reverse dieting phase that is at least 25% as long as your fat loss phase. That's something you can also recognize in my example because I had a 3-week reverse dieting period after my 12-week fat loss phase. Also, the rate at which you can increase calories on a weekly basis will depend on how lean you are when going into that reverse diet. If someone has dropped to a low body fat percentage, you actually want to start a reverse diet with a relatively large calorie increase so that you transition out of a deficit quickly. Individuals that are very lean should avoid a slow start in their reverse diet where they maybe only increase their calories by 50 or 100 calories in the first few weeks. Say you are in a 500 daily calorie deficit and then only increase calories by 100 every week. You will essentially spend another month in a deficit before your body actually catches a break. And when you already are at a low body fat level, spending more time in a calorie deficit typically isn't something that is good for your energy levels, hormonal health, and training performance. So if you have achieved your fat loss goal and don't have any desire of getting leaner, then step number 1 in a reverse diet is to increase your calorie intake up to your new estimated maintenance calories. And I purposely say your new estimated maintenance calories because your maintenance calories are now lower than before the start of your fat loss phase. That's why also in my reverse diet example, I didn't increase my calories up immediately to my former maintenance level, but to a lower estimated maintenance. So say for instance that you can maintain your body weight at around 2,500 calories per day. After a fat loss phase, it is very likely that this calorie maintenance is going to be lower and maybe more towards the 2,200 or 2,300 calories per day. How much the metabolism adapts in the fat loss phase is different from person to person. For instance, in one study, researchers found that when individuals dropped 10% of their body weight, their daily energy expenditure dropped anywhere from 8 to 28%. Because metabolic adaptations are so individual, it is tough to give a general guideline on how you can estimate your new maintenance calories. But based on my coaching experience, if you lose fat at a moderate pace, increasing your daily calorie intake by 200 to 300 calories in the first week of your reverse diet is a good rule of thumb for most people. From that point forward, that's when you can maintain a slow weekly calorie increase of 50 to 100 calories per week until you are back to around your former maintenance calories. And this calorie increase can come from a combination of carbohydrates and fats. If you already consumed enough protein in your fat loss phase, you don't need to consume more protein going into the reverse diet. So the extra calories you get from the reverse diet provide more flexibility in your carbs and fats. So now that you have a better idea of how a reverse diet looks and is set up, let's look into the reasoning behind the reverse diet and why we actually want to do this in the first place. The reason we don't just want to jump back into your former maintenance calories is of course that your maintenance calories is slightly suppressed after maintaining a calorie deficit for a longer period of time. Especially because research indicates that we are more susceptible to fat gain right after a fat loss phase, we want to avoid eating in a calorie surplus directly after a fat loss phase by more gradually increasing the calories up. But there are also behavioral benefits to a reverse diet. After a fat loss phase, it is common for people to fall back into old habits that might not be effective for maintaining their fat loss results. By having a 200 to 300 calorie increase in that first week and after that slowly further increasing calorie intake, you teach your body how to enjoy more calories without overdoing it. During a reverse diet, you also have more space for snacks you enjoy consuming that might have been harder to fit in while you were in a calorie deficit. But you also practice having good calorie control after the fat loss phase, so that you don't just get the benefit of preventing fat regain in the short term, but you also teach your body how to maintain your fat loss results in the long run. Now, it's worth mentioning that some small increases in body weight are common during a reverse diet. But if you go about your reverse diet in a gradual manner as shown in this video, then the 1 to maximum 3 pounds that you may gain throughout the reverse dieting period is not a concern. As you introduce more carbs into your diet, muscle glycogen stores will increase, your muscle size might go up a bit, and water retention can also go up as you consume more food. These are all variables that influence your body weight but don't impact your body fat levels, so the 1 to 3 pounds that you may gain throughout the reverse diet is all good. This is a transitory increase and you will find that your body weight will stabilize after a week or two. And that was all for today's video. I hope you found this helpful and now are able to create your own reverse diet with more confidence. If you have any questions, then as always, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Also, be sure to leave me a thumbs up if you found this video helpful. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and I will see you in that next video.